There's a story coming out right now that the New York Knicks are looking heavily to make a trade with OKC for Chris Paul. Now, we were talking about this before the playoffs even started, before the season even came back, that we all know that Rose was Chris Paul's agent over the last couple of years. And we all also know that Rose is going to try to bring in his own guys to help develop and bring some of these players to the top of their games. Now, RJ Barrett, I do not believe, even though we've been hearing stories about Joel Embiid, unless that story might come true, if they decide to bring Chris Paul in here, maybe bring in Joel Embiid, and then now you have your top two players and you can build around them. But then you have to trade RJ Barrett. You're hearing Mitchell Robinson and the 8th pick in this year's draft, where they have a significant amount of draft stock in the next couple of years. But do you think that bringing in Chris Paul and Joel Embiid is going to win you a championship in the East? Is it better than the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? Right now, if you put that on paper, that would be a no.
Yeah.
I think that Joel Embiid is one of the top 3 big men in the NBA, but is injury prone, and Chris Paul is still one of the top point guards in the NBA. I would say top 5, top 6. The only problem with that is Chris Paul is 36 years old. He's an old man. How many years do you think you're going to get out of that contract, which is still about 3 years left on that contract? If you can get 2 out of the 3, you're getting a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to win a championship next year bringing in Chris Paul. So I don't know about this.
Yeah,
what
he did with the Thunder last year was unheard of. Like, can you expect him to do it again with another young team? And even if he does it once again, will it happen multiple times for the rest of the length of that contract too? Between that and the money, that's gonna be a lot for the Knicks. And again, the Knicks being so far behind, you want to keep all your draft picks as much as possible, unless it's for a younger star player, like we've mentioned Karl Anthony Towns, we mentioned Devin Booker in the past, a player like that. Now, I don't think Booker's being traded based on what he did in the bubble. Now, I think he's probably safe in Phoenix now, but Towns is definitely still out there.
Well, again, and I'm looking at what Carl's writing to me right now. Embiid is one of the top 3 big men. No way. Yes, he is. Yes, he is, Carl. I mean, who's better than him right now? If healthy, 100% healthy, what big man is better than him? I want to hear about Anthony Davis because he plays with LeBron James. You're talking about Joel Embiid playing with Ben Simmons and nobody else.
Yeah.
So look at the team.
Even if you want to put those two, you got Anthony Davis and you got Nikola Jokic, and then who's third? Like, there's no definitive third that's better than Embiid when healthy.
If you really want me to look, I'm looking at Joel Embiid's numbers. Okay, so I will bring in Joel Embiid's numbers, and you tell me an NBA big man. I'm not talking about power forwards. I'm talking about big men. Joel Embiid this year averaged 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists. 47% field goal percentage, and even at 3-point, he's 33 for a big man. That's good. So if you look at his numbers, what big man has these kind of numbers? Now, he also plays with nobody. I'm not talking about Anthony. He plays with LeBron James. Tell me a big man. You're going to say, give me the Greek Freak. The Greek Freak is
what
averaging.
Position is he?
Yeah, but he's really about, I would say he's a power forward that can't shoot. He can't shoot anywhere on the court, but dominate in the paint. So again, I do believe Joel Embiid is one of the top 3 all-around big men in the league. Karl Anthony Towns is up there too because he's a good all-around big man. And I'm talking about 5s, not 4s. I mean, Anthony Davis to me is a 4. He's not a 5. Giannis is a 4. So again, I'm looking at the big man position and what we've seen so far with Joel Embiid. And I'm not saying I want Joel Embiid on the Knicks because I don't want an injury-prone player. Right. And you watch, he'll go to the Knicks and he'll be injured for the next 4 years of that contract, and he's a complete bust. Right. I'm just hearing right now that Chris Paul is a guy that they're gunning for. I knew this from the beginning. I knew they were going to gun for Chris Paul from the beginning. One of the reasons why there was articles coming out when Rose came in that Rose was talking about bringing Chris Paul in. And now you're hearing that it's they're looking, if OKC wants this trade, they're going to want Julius Randle and possibly Kevin Knox in that trade, which you're giving up 2 significant players to this roster for the next couple of years. And you're giving up a lot of money because you're going to have to pay Chris Paul $40 million a year for the next 2 years. That's a lot of money.
I was hearing Ntilikina too could have been part of that as well.
I mean, this is not a good move for the New York Knicks if they decide to bring in Chris Paul. And I have not heard Ntilikina. I did not hear Ntilikina. I heard Julius Randle and Kevin Knox. Those are the 2 guys that OKC would probably want. And Julius Randle, I think, is a very underrated offensive player. And I also believe that Kevin Knox is still a young player that just needs to develop. And maybe Tom Thibodeau will figure things out with him. But all in all, you're looking at the big picture. You need to stay away from Chris Paul. But again, if you look at what OKC's did this year and what they have done in the playoffs, a lot of the reasons why they took Houston all the way to game number 7. Why do you think they went all the way to 7 games? Yes, they have good young players, OKC, but it's because of Chris Paul. Chris Paul was the best player on the court. Chris Paul has been the best player on OKC. So say whatever you want, Carl, or anybody that's listening right now, to say that Chris Paul wouldn't be a good acquisition for the Knicks. It'd be a good acquisition for 1 year.
Carl,
for 3 years? No.
Carl, you also said game is all about shooting now. Who cares if he's one of the top 3 5s in the league? Yeah, we're not saying he's better than some of the superstars at small forward or point guard, one of those top point guards. We're not saying he's a top 5 player in the whole league or even a top 10 player in the whole league.
He's close. In terms
of big men, there's not a definitive big man that is better than him, probably besides Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic. That's really it. Okay. Who else is definitively better?
Okay, so let's look at this guy and say, and you tell me why he is not one of the best players right now in the end. I think he's close to a top 10 player. Top 15, definitely.
Okay.
Joel Embiid is definitely a top 15 player in this league. And anybody that doesn't think Joel Embiid, I would take Joel Embiid. If without the injuries, Joel Embiid would be my top 10.
He probably would. We don't know what would happen.
But he's an injury-prone player. So I'm not going to say an injury-prone player is in my top 10. So, but Joel Embiid is top 15, easy. Tell me a player right now in the NBA that averages right now 23 and 11. Tell me a player right now in the NBA that does that. I'm going to tell you right now, you could probably name 5 that has done that. So you're going to tell me that Joel Embiid, if you really look at the big picture, he's not one of the best players in the league right now? He is. He is. He took the 76ers always all the way to the Eastern Conference Championship last year. But if you look at the team right now, this team isn't good. They're not a good team. Ben Simmons can't shoot free throws. And we're not even talking about Joel Embiid because I don't even know if that's going to happen. We heard stories last week that Joel Embiid is a guy that the Knicks are very intrigued and very interested in making a move for. If they bring in Chris Paul, I don't know if they're going to be willing to bring in Joel Embiid's contract too. Because then you're going to have to drop a lot of players for those 2 guys. And you're going to depend on a lot of those players when, again, the New York Knicks is still not an efficient team on and off the bench. This is not a good team. So even adding 2 great players, that's not going to be enough. Just as much as I think it's not going to be enough for the Brooklyn Nets. There's no way the Brooklyn Nets next year are going to be able to compete with Miami or even the Celtics and some of these other teams that are rebuilding right now. And now that you have a rookie coach and Steve Nash, you're going to have trials and tribulations with them. You don't know what this team's going to be next year with a rookie coach. So again, I'm looking at the big picture. And now you're saying Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is not a winner in the playoffs. He died down in game number 7. You know why they got eliminated in that series? They got eliminated in that series because Russell, and I'm sorry, not game 7, game 5. Okay.
Right, when they almost blew it.
Yeah, it was game 5. Yep. Russell Westbrook was not good in that series. A matter of fact, James Harden outplayed Russell Westbrook in that series. It's hard.
Game 7.
Yeah, it really hurts me to say that, but it's true. So the big picture right now is you could say whatever you want about Russell Westbrook, and you're saying, hold on. So it doesn't matter if Embiid is a top 3 center. If you don't want him, he is an injury prone. Yes, I'm saying, Carl, I don't want Joel Embiid because he's injury prone. If it came down to it and Joel Embiid was Anthony Davis, who plays a lot, the majority of the games the last couple of years, I'm taking Anthony. Yeah, I'll take Joel Embiid on my team. Absolutely.
And it's the same discussion we were having when you and Mikey C were arguing if the Knicks have enough to trade for Karl Anthony Towns. We're not saying Karl Anthony Towns is not somebody we would want. We both wanted him at the right price and over Embiid, yes, because he's durable, but that doesn't mean he's definitively better when healthy. Embiid's outperformed him so far in his 6 years in the league versus Towns 5.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't believe Joel Embiid is going to the Knicks. And if Chris Paul does, and I do believe Chris Paul will be a Knick, I could see that happening right when the season is over. I believe the Knicks will make a trade with OKC. I don't think they're going to have to give up as many players as what we're hearing. I think they're going to have to give up one good player, either Knox and Randle, and possibly a first-round draft pick, a late first round, maybe one of the picks that they got for Morris or something like that from the Lakers. One way or another, they're going to have to give up a first-round draft pick. I don't think it's going to be a lottery pick or one of the picks from Dallas. I don't think the Knicks are going to give any of those guys up. But I do believe landing Chris Paul, you're going to have to give up a first round and maybe Randle or Knox to make that trade, because you're going to have to take up a big contract, and that's going to solidify the Knicks to possibly make that move because OKC doesn't want to pay him. So again, I'm very intrigued to see what the Knicks are going to do in the offseason, knowing that I don't think the Knicks are happy in their draft place. And I believe the Knicks are going to try to trade away that pick because an 8th pick in this year's draft, they just feel like there's not enough talent in this draft to sit there at 8 and hope that somebody's going to fall to them.
So you think they trade up in the draft, or they trade up for a star?
I think the Knicks are going to trade up for a star. I do. I don't think they're going to trade up in the draft because I still don't think that they think that anybody stands out in this draft where they're a sure championship player, a sure superstar player, which is a problem when you look at the New York Knicks over the years. They could not and will not find a superstar player in the draft except KP. Name the last superstar that came out of a draft for the Knicks.
Also injury prone like Embiid.
Yeah. Well, again, KP is a superstar. Say whatever you want, injury prone or not. KP is a superstar. That was the one superstar, the lone superstar the Knicks had in the draft in a very, very long time. And they decided to trade him away for draft stock. So again, when you look at the big picture right now and you look at where the New York Knicks are, as a fan, I am not very excited to hear that Chris Paul might be a New York Knick because he's not 30 years old. He's not even 33 years old. The guy is 36 going on 37 years old. And as good as he is still in the NBA, when is it going to be the time where you're going to see the breakdown of Chris Paul? And here's the answer. As soon as he goes to the Knicks, there'll be a breakdown. I absolutely believe that. So, Speedy, somebody's trying to call in, see who this is, and see if we have to put him through. But all in all, I look at the big picture and where the New York Knicks are, and hearing the stories that are coming out with the New York Knicks, it doesn't really make me excited in the big picture. So, again, do we have a caller?
Hello?
Welcome to Below the Mic. Who are we speaking to?
The Snowman. Who else?
What's up, Snowman?
This is where I get to tease you for you teasing me 2 years ago.
Are you talking about Russell Westbrook?
Why would Chris Paul come to the Knicks?
Here's the thing. Chris Paul has no say to go to the Knicks. He's under contract. So if the Knicks make a trade for Chris Paul, they can get Chris Paul because the Knicks have the money, they have the salary room, and they have the draft stock and the players that they can make the acquisition. Now, do I think cold-heartedly that Chris Paul wants to be a Knick? No, but that's not his say. He has no trade clause in his contract with OKC or the Houston Rockets when they made the trade. So if the Knicks want him, they can get him.
Okay, then would they do better with Russell Westbrook?
I don't think the Knicks need somebody like Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is a cancer. He's a fantastic player. He's one of the best point guards in the league. He's not a winning point guard. And either is Chris Paul. But I would trust Chris Paul for some of the development of some of the young players and working with some of the young players because we've seen him do it already. We've seen him do it in OKC. We've seen him do it with the Pelicans when he was over there with the Pelicans. We've seen him everywhere he's gone. He's helped develop young players. Russell Westbrook don't help anybody. Russell Westbrook is a me player.
True on all counts with that.
So
start saying that on my show.
Yeah, well, that's the truth.
What would be one move that would make a destination again for players to play?
Karl Anthony Towns. And I don't know if that's going to happen. Karl Anthony Towns. The reason why I think Karl Anthony Towns is he has a relationship with Rose. I think he's a fantastic big man. He's still very young, 24 years old. I would say one of the top 5 big men in the league. I'm talking about from the 5 and the 4. I think he's one of the top 5 big men in the league. And I think with some of the stories that you hear, I think being that he's from New Jersey, he's from the East Coast, he grew up a Knicks fan, I think it makes more sense to bring somebody like that because he knows what it is to look at a losing organization because he was rooting for a losing organization for a very long time. His family's over here. And I just think it would draw more fandom to be very happy and excited to see a young player of that magnitude